In today's video, we're going to talk about New Zealand. I mean New Zealand. That's government ki website. What are they doing? The country people actually forget about might just be the place you would want to go for your studies. So should you study in New Zealand? So let's start with quality of education. New Zealand's quality of education is really good. It's compared with Canada and Australia, which have the best education systems across the world. So yes, the quality of education is good, but it's a bit confusing. So ideally there are 10 levels of education in New Zealand. Out of these, the first three, 1, 2 and 3, level 1, 2 and 3 are in your classes 11, 12 and 13. So basically if you have done your schooling from India, you would have already cleared your first 3 levels of education. Now let's talk about the 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th level. So if you're done with the first 3 levels of education, what are rest of the levels? Now 5th and 6th level are basically certificates and diploma courses. So if you plan to come to New Zealand and do a certificate and a diploma course, you get level 5 or level 6 of certification. It depends on the degree that you're doing. So when you're applying, the college that you apply to, the degree that you apply to, they claim that this is level 5 education, level 6 education, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they tell you what is the importance of this. The higher the level of education, easier it is for you to get a PR in New Zealand. Now, what is level 7? Level 7 is a graduate diploma or a bachelor's degree from New Zealand. Level 8 is a postgraduate course, a postgraduate diploma or a bachelor's degree with honors. Level 9 is a master's degree and level 10 is a doctoral degree. So basically if you have, let's suppose you have level 10 of education, then getting a PR in New Zealand would be very easy. If you have, let's suppose, level 5 or level 6 of education in New Zealand, the getting a PR might just be a bit tough. So basically what do people do if they end up clearing level 5, 6? They end up going for another degree, another certification, which would be of level 7 and level 8. There are 3 types of institutes in New Zealand. One is called a university, second one is called a polytechnic, and third one is called a private training establishment. Now, first of all, if you end up getting into a university, absolutely amazing for you. Go ahead, study in a university. But there are many Indians who do not end up qualifying to study in a university because yes, the requirements, the study requirements and the university eligibility requirements are usually higher. So they end up going to a polytechnic, which is again not that bad. But then finally you have a private training establishment. Now think of it as a very small college wherein you'll have only international students. This is being run so that they make money. Their aim is not to provide you, inculcate you with you amazing knowledge. No, that's not what they're trying to do. What they're trying to do is make money by giving you a visa to study here. Now they will definitely be more expensive. Usually you'll not find any Kiwi students studying with you, and people usually prefer not taking that. Now that is something you should be scared of. That is something you should not be going for. If you end up going to a university or polytechnic, that's amazing. But if you end up going to a private establishment, private training establishment, I would not recommend that. I've talked with many people who have had very bad experiences with private training establishments. So yes, try and stay away from private training establishments. There are so many other study abroad destinations. We have talked about Australia, Italy. You can go there. But so if you're planning to come to New Zealand and planning to go to a private training establishment, I would say take an arm's distance. Just stay 1 arm distance away. Pros about New Zealand: it is amongst the safest countries across the world. It does end up giving you 1 to 3 years of post-study work visa depending on which field you're going to and what is the level of education you're going for. At the same time, lately New Zealand has again said that they will be giving out way too many visas to international people. So yes, these are very good pros for New Zealand. Another pro of studying in New Zealand is that the study is research based. Unlike in India where you have to give exams, ideally in New Zealand you will be given practical projects on which you'll be working. You'll have to make make a complete research, and ideally you'll not be giving many exams but working on more and more research projects. At the same time, another pro of studying in New Zealand is while you're studying during your semesters, you can work for 20 hours and the minimum wage is $20. So that's amazing. And in your summer breaks, you can actually end up working for as many hours as you want. So people end up working in those 3 months and end up saving a lot of money. So that's an amazing thing with regards to New Zealand. Cons for New Zealand: it's expensive. Definitely, as Australia is expensive, New Zealand is also expensive. Another con for New Zealand is if you plan to go for courses which are towards the business side, towards the hospitality side, they are not that welcoming to those people. They do not require them in their economy. So yeah, getting a PR in that would be difficult. But then what would be easy? So if you plan to get a PR in New Zealand, what should you be doing? Which is the easiest things that you can go for and get a PR in New Zealand? If you plan to get a PR in New Zealand, ideally if you're from the healthcare system, absolutely amazing for you. Getting a PR is very easy. New Zealand has an acute shortage of healthcare workers. There are three things New Zealand has an acute shortage of. So if you're from these three fields, ideally getting a PR would be very easy. One is healthcare. Second one, teaching sector, primary teaching, childcare. New Zealand has a very amazing focus on their teaching sector, but at the same time there is a shortage of these. So if you do come under this, if you are a trainer for students, children, if you want to enter into the teaching field, New Zealand can be a country for you. And third one is if you come under trade courses. So if you basically come under trade courses, the chances of getting a PR are amazing. Now, what are trade courses? Plumbing, electrician. So if you have an expertise in these, it's amazing for you. Why? Because I was talking to a friend from New Zealand. He told me that it takes sometimes a month or two to get a plumber. So if you need a plumber at your house, it takes a month or two to get a plumber. And provided there is an emergency, you call a plumber, you end up spending $500-600 just for that plumber in case of an emergency. So yes, if you come under that, getting a PR might just be easy. Another field that you can go for is civil engineering. Basically, right now, New Zealand is building its country. They require as many civil engineers as they can. So yes, as we said, in Germany they require civil engineers. New Zealand also requires civil engineers. So these are some fields. If you come from these, New Zealand might just be the place that you would want to go to. Apart from that, if you want to go towards the finance field or any other field, we have covered videos on Ireland, Italy. You can watch those videos. Norway is another country that you can go to. So do watch those videos. But moving ahead, so finally covering the entire video with how expensive is New Zealand. Ideally, a New Zealand dollar costs somewhere around 50 Indian rupees, and the amount of money that you'll be spending on your education, your tuition fees would be somewhere between 20 to 35,000 New Zealand dollars. So which translates to somewhere around 10 lakh to 15 lakh Indian rupees. And apart from that, the monthly expenditure that you'll have on your living, first rent would be somewhere between $200 to $350 depending on the depending on the city that you're in, and at the same time depending on how you're living. So if you plan to live alone and take up an entire apartment, so that would cost you a lot. But if you plan to live in a shared apartment, that would be very cheap for you. So 200 to 350 New Zealand dollars is what you'll be spending on your living. Groceries would be somewhere between 30 to 50 New Zealand dollars. Also, since you're a student, traveling would be cheaper for you. 30% discount on traveling you will have. And that's with regards to New Zealand. If you have any other questions, do let me know in the comment section. At the same time, Australia is something that might just interest you more.